So now it is time for a sensible bet builder. I debuted this on another podcast, a previous episode, and people loved it, so I thought, yeah, I'll make this a more consistent thing. And in this one, I'm going to take a look at an individual game. I think we created a treble last time out, didn't we? And it is probably the biggest game of New Year's Day. In fact, it definitely is. Liverpool hosting Newcastle United. Can't wait for this one. And we can see here, Liverpool is still unbeaten. They've won 78% of home games. And the away form for Newcastle, well, there's no getting around it. It is dreadful. 0.56 points per game. They've won just 11% of games, which is equal to basically one of their games, which was Sheffield United away. The 8-0 game seems a bit of an anomaly, doesn't it, when you look at the rest of their data. It's crazy how at home, if we toggle the home form here, they can be so solid. There can be many clean sheets, but away from home it's a different story. And I think recently in general it is a different story. If we just look at all of their games from the Christmas period, I mentioned earlier on this podcast episode that they are one of my losers for the festive period. If you look at the goals conceded as well, 3 to Everton, 4 to Spurs, and then 3 at home to Forest. The question is, as we build this sensible bet builder, is basically how many are Liverpool going to score here? Because if we look at their home form, it has dried up actually. They played United, didn't score, probably should have scored, and then they drew with Arsenal, didn't they? Tough game, of course, but again, they probably should have scored another goal in that game. Trent Alexander-Arnold hitting the bar. But in general, you would not really bet on Liverpool to lose this game, looking at their general form. They've lost one game this season. They are well in this title race, and they will want to stay there. They will want to stay at the top of the table. It's currently 2 points, but Arsenal play at Fulham before this game. I think it's on New Year's Eve, that one. So there might be some added pressure on Liverpool to reclaim that top spot if Arsenal have in fact beaten Fulham. So let's look at the goals then as we continue to build a picture in our head of this game and how it might go. That's the way I'm going to do these sensible bet builders. We look at the data and then we just try and build a picture. What is the most likely outcome? And within that likely outcome, we'll also try and look at some of those anomalies like the 8-0. Newcastle's away games have seen more goals on average, although Liverpool are scoring a lot more than Newcastle. So the average goals per game for Liverpool, 3.11 at home, and for Newcastle, 3.56. But be careful with any averages in any walk of life, because they're factoring in outliers, which in Newcastle's case, you've got the 8-0 away drumming. If you take away those 8 goals, they've scored 14 overall, Newcastle. If you take away 8 that they scored at Sheffield United, or maybe take away 6, it's not every day that a team goes and scores 8. So you've just got to factor that in as well when you're talking about someone like Newcastle. It has been really, really poor away from home. They've conceded 2 goals per game on average. And on the other side of that coin, Liverpool's home form conceded just 6 goals, which equates to 0.67 goals per game. And 3 of those 6 goals came in a game when Alisson wasn't playing, against Fulham. So defensively, Liverpool have been superb, probably one of the best teams in the league, to be honest, which is strange because when I watch them, some of the games, the defenders can be a little bit erratic at times. Van Dijk has been superb, don't get me wrong. At the start of the season, whoever was playing next to him was leaving space, potentially getting caught in some areas. And I think they've got better, because if you look at the form as well for Liverpool, they conceded in 7 of the first 8 games that they played this season. We'll also check out cards first, and then we will head to Bet365 just to see what the odds are. I think it's important to do it in that way as well. Don't go onto Bet365 first and then let the odds dictate what you think about the game. Look at the data first, try and work up a picture. And of course, because this is Premier League, this is for fun. This is, with our own sort of biases, and because people watch the Premier League so much, people have opinions on the players and the way different teams are playing. And you also have recency bias as well. If you just watched a game, let's say you just watched Wolves when they were on TV and they were fantastic, you just have that in your mind regardless of who they were playing next. Whereas if you're value betting or something like that and you never even look at the teams, you never watch them play, I just think those kind of methods are probably going to be more successful long term than if you are trying to, let's say you're trying to consistently make money by betting on the Premier League. You might be able to find value in some areas like player props, card betting for sure, but even in those markets, because it's such a popular league, you've got to make sure you get on those games as soon as they're launched on Pinnacle, on Bet365. And you can do that using oddalerts.com. You can set alerts, they are called availability alerts. You can set up all of the leagues that you want to be alerted for, and then you just select the type of markets. There's also foul alerts if you're into player bookings, another very good strategy because of some of the odds that get offered in play. So you can say, tell me if a player has had 4 or more fouls and he's not been booked yet, and then you can go and check out his data and see how many cards he's got this season, check out the referee data as well at the same time. So that was a quick plug for Odd Alerts. You can go to oddalerts.com/alerts if you're logged in, or oddalerts.com/pro if you're not, and you can check out all of the features and benefits. Thanks. So Newcastle have struggled away from home. Have they been getting frustrated in those games? Let's take a look at the cards. Well, they've been booked in 78% of games, and for Liverpool they've been booked in 67% of home games. I think that's probably because they have so much of the ball. If we look at Liverpool's away games, for example, it goes to 100%. So Liverpool have been booked in every single away game they've played. That is not true for Newcastle though. What about the opponents being booked? So when Liverpool play at home, their opponent gets booked in 89% of games. Of course, if you've got players like Diaz, Jota, Nunez, Salah, of course. And for Newcastle, when they play away from home, their opponents have been booked in every single games. The first half cards average for Liverpool is very high at home, 2.44. They are not the ones receiving, that is 0.67, but in terms of the opponent, 1.78 for first half cards. So are Liverpool really looking to get these games won in the first half? Is there a lot of energy in the first half? Because usually, you know, I would say the general trend in football is that there are fewer cards. One, because most teams are just feeling each other out. They don't try and go gung-ho from the first minute. But two, because there's also a general trend with referees doing that as well. The referees want to keep their cards in their pockets. So unless there is a frantic end-to-end start and there's a lot of space from the first minutes, then it's not likely that you see cards. But in Liverpool and Newcastle, we have two teams that do like to play on the front foot. Now, maybe that's been Newcastle's problem away from home. I remember the game they played against Bournemouth, where Bournemouth were absolutely all over them. It was so easy for them to get in behind. They've got Botman back now, which is a big boost, no doubt about it. Trippier had a terrible December in terms of the mistakes he made, but he seems to be coming back into things now as well. As things stand, Newcastle will be without Lascelles, Anderson, Willock, Murphy, Barnes, Targett, Pope and Tonali. So that list, although it's still quite long, it is getting smaller, and Botman being back is great. Lewis Hall is back on the bench, and they're trying to fit him into the team in some way. Livramento has played well this season as well, so I think they just need to get that first 11 back. Tonali being out is really the big blow for Newcastle. Now they're going to have to go and look at someone like Calvin Phillips potentially. For Liverpool, they are likely to be without McAllister, Thiago still, Matip with his ACL of course, and Andy Robertson unlikely to make it for this one. Tsimikas as well is out, so left back will be an interesting one. Keep an eye on who starts there, potentially Gomez, but it could be an area that Newcastle look to exploit, and they have got good wingers, and of course Trippier getting down that right side could be very interesting. So certainly somewhere that I'm sure Eddie Howe will look to exploit. I've also seen Anthony Gordon going over to that right side in the last couple of games. He's been popping up all over that front line. And could he have an impact on this game? I think he could. Let's head over to Bet365 and we'll check out the latest odds for this game. So for there to be a first half card, it's 1.2. That seems very low to me. Those odds have been squashed. That used to be quite high for the Premier League, certainly not as low as 1.2 a couple of years ago from what I remember anyway. In the last 5 games as well, Liverpool averaging 8.4 shots on target per game. Now the first selection for me is going to be Anthony Gordon to have a shot on target. He played very well in that reverse leg in the first half anyway. There was shouts on commentary that get Trent Alexander-Arnold off the pitch, he's going to be sent off. Got an early yellow card, and Gordon was buzzing around, and he's been a bright spark, to be honest, for Newcastle this season. There's been times where he's been playing as the 9, and as I said before, he's been getting across the front three in recent weeks. 0.97 shots on target per 90, so literally just under 1. And the odds are 2.25 for Anthony Gordon, so we'll go ahead and add him to the bet. In terms of fouls committed, you've got Bruno in the middle, Diaz for Liverpool, Joe Linton, McAllister. 4 South Americans there make up the top 4 between these two squads. Szoboszlai with 21 fouls in 19 games. Kieran Trippier 20 in 18. If we toggle this for per 90, we'll see that it is Endo actually. So the time that he spends on the pitch, he's actually averaging a lot more fouls than other players. Now this is where I don't like the options on Bet365. They're not offering Endo, they just don't want to. So you've got Gravenberch, who could play, might not play. You've got Trent, who obviously did get booked in the previous game, and you've got Virgil van Dijk. So any of these would take it up to 3s and above, but to be honest, I'm not going to add them, because this is why you should look at the data first, again, because if you just went here, you would then feel that you have to pick one of these 3. Why are they not offering the full squad? They don't want to price it up. Why don't they want to price it up? Because they don't want you to pick it. Endo, if he plays, will definitely be pressed by that Newcastle defence. He's been good, don't get me wrong, he's had a good December, Endo, but when he receives that ball, there's still much better players than him at, getting it off to another player quickly. So I think he can be pressed, and they'll be looking to do that, Newcastle, because that's what they're all about. Tonali is still 5th in this list, by the way, fouls per 90, and he's only played 8 games. I'm not going to add a player booking to this, but Anthony Gordon is top of the pile when you're looking at player bookings in terms of yellow cards. He's had 7 yellow cards in 18 games. Bruno has had 7. McAllister, who's out for this game, has had 5. Endo has had 4. And Kieran Trippier has had 5 as well. So we're at 2.25 now with that Anthony Gordon shot on target. And I do believe Liverpool will win this game, and clearly the bookmakers do as well. The odds are really, really short for this. So I do think it'll be a feisty one. What I'm going to do is add some card plays, and I think there'll be a first half card, but again, is it worth it? Is it worth that risk given how low the odds were? 1.2 the odds were. But as we saw before, the data for a first half card for Liverpool, in terms of their opponents anyway, is quite high. So at home, Liverpool are averaging 22.4 shots per game. Now, if we look at Liverpool to have over 16, it gets us up to 3.10. If we look at the last 5 games overall for Newcastle, they are conceding 16 shots per game. If we look at away, that goes to 18. If we look at overall form, so it'll include all of their games this season, it goes to 14.78 shots against per game. I'm actually going to go overs here on 16.5 shots for Liverpool. Let's see how this one plays out. As I say, this is for fun, but at the same time trying to keep it sensible, trying to keep the odds maybe 3 to 5s. What I will also add to this is over 1 card in the second half. And if we add the result as Liverpool, we get 6s, and I think I'm happy with that. We've got Anthony Gordon shot on target, over 16.5 shots for Liverpool, over 1 card in the second half. Again, first half card data looks very good for Liverpool. It's also quite likely that Liverpool could score in the first half. Newcastle, they're like a wounded animal. You don't know if they're going to attack now and get their energy and bite back, or if they're just going to continue lying on the floor. But I think even if Newcastle show what we know they've got, I still think this Liverpool team at the moment, and defensively, they are doing really well. The left back will be an issue, though. This is the thing. Some of these games, you know that certain things in game could change everything. If they start this game and Newcastle are having so much joy down that left side of Liverpool, then it just changes the complexion of the game. Maybe Jurgen Klopp has to go to his bench. They have to find a different solution. Yeah, so quite happy with this sensible bet builder here. We've got Anthony Gordon to have a shot on target, over 16.5 shots for Liverpool, over 1 card in the second half. Again, the first half card data looks good if you want to add that into your sensible bet builder. I just think the odds are too low for me. I think they're 1.18 or 1.2, even though the data is good. I always think those first half cards are a risk, because I just think naturally referees want to keep the cards in the pockets for as long as possible, so that's sort of working against you. And then finally, match result to be Liverpool, and that is coming in at 6s. So what are your thoughts on this? Would you change anything? What do you think will happen in this game? Leave a comment, and you'll automatically be entered into a draw to win Odd Alerts Pro. I announced the winners on Sunday on YouTube. If you've commented on YouTube or Twitter or wherever you're watching this video, you'll see the winners announced. And thank you for joining this segment of Sensible Bet Builders. If you're listening to the podcast right now, we'll jump into the next section. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to subscribe and comment and like and all that good stuff.